Oh, all right, wonderful. Welcome,
But
everyone.
was there an announcement that says we were recording? Because I didn't hear it.
Yes.
Yeah.
there was. Yeah. So welcome everyone to the UNNC Sustainability Meeting. It is Thursday, March 10th at 8 p.m. LA time, and I'm Elizabeth Fenner, I don't know what I am. I'm
Chair.
I'm chair of the committee for the time being. I'm glad to be here, totally. And I'd like to go around, let's see, and do introductions, but Laura, do we need to?
I'm going to share. I'm looking for it. My intention was to share the screen with the agenda.
Great.
Oh,
Great.
okay.
And you also would have everybody would have found that in their, the email, which included the Zoom link, but thank you, Laura, that's wonderful. So we just have to announce again that we're holding meetings for the time being virtually, right? Anything more about that, Laura?
Just draw your attention to item number 1 that it explains it, but for the time being, the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners has renewed their the finding that is still a state of emergency, and meeting in person would present imminent risk to the health or safety of attendees.
Okay, thank you, Laura. And so I guess we have I will call this meeting to order, and I would love to have people introduce themselves. Can we start with Dan? Dan, would you go first?
Sure. Dan Kegel, live in West Adams, just north of the freeway. I'm not sure what the actual name of the place is. I'm an engineer, a scientist-ish, and a longtime climate activist. And on to Charlie.
I'm Charlie. I am in Harvard Heights. I am an at-large board member, and I'm a social worker with the Public Defender's Office. So I work with kids in the juvenile justice system, and am more recently, I've always had an environmental slant on things, but more recently, much more wanting to be much more eco-conscious. Laura, do you want to go?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to throw it to somebody?
Hand it off to Laura. So I'm Laura Myers, and I am your Zoom host and the current president of UNNC, and I live in Angeles Vista. Although I think I want to be more eco, it's really, really hard to actually be that. Although I throw away very little trash, and I do recycle quite everything. That's only one piece of it, I know. I know we have at least one other person here at the meeting.
Yeah, there's Davina.
Hi guys, my name's Davina. I'm back. I am in Arlington Heights. I've lived here for about 7 years as a renter, and just want to be more involved in the community.
Wonderful. Thanks. And thanks everyone for being here. And I think now we can go to approval of the agenda. Did everybody get a chance to look at it? Here's it on the screen now, and it is packed. There's a lot of important things, and we're still going to try to end at 9 your time, 11 my time. Any additions or emendations to that agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
I second.
Awesome. Everybody in agreement? Any disagreement? Great, thanks. Then
Okay,
moving
so
on.
I'm going to stop the share just
Okay.
because I can't see anything.
Okay, then I think we can move on to public comment. That is to say 1 to 2 minutes, I believe. And any public comment?
I just want to say that Laura and I both attended the first LA Climate Equity Workshop this evening about building decarbonization, and it was actually a pretty good discussion in the breakout rooms. There were like 120 people there altogether.
Right, and UNNC was also represented by another one of our board members, Jasmine Johnson was there. Although she was there for work, she's I emailed her and said, oh, I see you're there. Are you coming tonight? She said, I have to go home. So, but anyway, so we were well represented, but it was a lot of people.
Okay. If I could make a little, not announcement, but just a statement that here in Wichita, I would think, you'd think that maybe it wasn't very eco. So I'm looking for all the different ways one can be eco. And that's the nice thing, is that in every given environment, you can try to make eco choices, and everybody knows the language and they know to be sensitive to it. Every restaurant will say, oh, I'm sorry, yes, I do know about recyclable or compostable packaging, and we don't have it. But they'll say, I wish we did. And so I think that there's at least a mindset that is, at least the workers think, you know, there's a world out there that we could turn to. So every little thing we do can have a little eco bent to it. And that's all I'll say. And if there's any more comments, then we will move to Dan Cagle and the proposed CIS.
We have a new participant, I think.
Hello, call-in user number 1. Could you unmute and say hello? Say who you are.
How do you unmute? Is it *6?
I
Oh,
don't remember.
Yes. On a phone, it is *6. Hello?
Well, and
Oh,
Marius is here. too.
Marius,
Yes. Yay.
it's a party.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think we should let Dan start.
Yep, moving right along. Let me
Hi, Marius.
Hello.
let me see if I can share the fact sheet. How does this work? Share screen.
And then
Well,
you go to it. But if,
well-
if you're having trouble, I do have it.
No, I got it.
Okay.
I mean, I
There
can
we
fight
go.
my way through anything.
Because you're a scientist.
I am a scientist.
But
I'm not
I
a
think you need to,
paleontologist.
I think we need to start with what are we talking about?
Yep.
And I will apologize to Dan. I think he asked me to help do outreach, and I think I did fear mongering outreach. It might have been successful. A lot of people have read the emails. I even got some emails back saying thank you. But and actually, Dan, based on the meeting we went to, I may not have been wrong, but you know, the idea like, do you have to give up your gas appliances, was a little bit of fear mongering to get people here. Sorry. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so what we're discussing is the city council has a motion in front of it, 22-0151. And I want to lay out what it's about. Its title is, in the title is building decarbonization for new buildings, essentially. So the basic problem is climate change is a real problem. It's increasing risks of fire, flooding, hurricanes, all sorts of things, heat stroke. Actually, heat stroke is a real problem. When there's a heat wave in LA, the death rate goes up, especially among low-income neighborhoods. And so what causes climate change? Essentially fossil fuel use. And in LA, one of the major sources of greenhouse gas is fossil fuel use in buildings. Depending on which statistics you look at, it's either 10% of our emissions or 50%, you know, somewhere in there. Burning fossil fuels in the home is actually a health risk. It increases indoor smog, and you can burn yourself on the flame, or your kid can on the stove. And so these are problems. And every time we build a new building that uses fossil fuel, it's making the problem worse. 45 cities in California have decided to stop making the problem worse. They have what are called REACH codes, which are building codes that are stricter than the states, that say new buildings are discouraged from or prohibited from using natural gas for heating in various ways. So the question is, should the city do that? And the council file in question proposes that the Department of Building and Safety, with help from experts and from the community, come up with a plan for how to require new buildings not use fossil fuels effective at the end of the year. That's the basic idea. So they want to come up with a plan for how to do this. It's not, the motion doesn't require anybody to do anything yet. It just requires a plan to be made. And the benefits of making an effective plan and actually doing this include lower indoor smog, fewer health risks like asthma, less risk of kids burning their fingers on hot stoves, and potentially lower utility bills. So that's what the council file is about. And I would like to move that our committee recommend that the UNNC file a community impact statement supporting this motion.
Fantastic. Do you need a second? Was that a motion?
Well, it's up to the chair to think about the motion or have a discussion.
Well, I had read the motion because it was on, I think, our notes before. And so I wholeheartedly celebrate that motion and the CAS. And I don't know if I'm allowed to second something.
You are not. You are not.
We need a second.
I'll second.
Great, thank you. I think that was Charlie first. And then now we have discussion. Are there any questions?
Well,
I have a question. Oh,
no, go ahead. I have a series of questions, but I'm going to type up the motion while other people talk first.
oh, okay. So the motion was just to make a community impact statement, and then the community impact statement is this proposal is to make a plan of how this would be possible then?
So
it's not the actual plan that's in effect yet,
So the motion before us is to recommend that the UNNC board file a community impact statement supporting Council File 22-0151. And that council file just says, let's make a plan for how to reduce or eliminate carbon emissions from new buildings. And
Oh,
there will be a
okay.
later council motion to actually enact the plan. So there'd be a
Gotcha.
separate vote on that.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I understood. Thanks so much for explaining.
Okay.
I'm
And
sorry,
can
it
you
takes
look
so
at
many
what I
words.
just wrote as the motion,
It's in the
please?
chat.
I put it in the chat.
To recommend to the governing board to adopt a community impact statement supporting council file per the example language in the fact sheet.
Where
To
the heck is
recommend
the
the
chat?
governing board adopt a community, okay, adopt or.
Well, I put, yeah, adopt would be the right word, but the question is, Dan, are you still sticking to that sample language?
Sure. Let me share the sample language again so people can see it.
Right, and I will type that in. Marius has his hand up, and I'm all over the place.
I'd like to hear from Marius.
There it is. Okay, yes, I'd like to know does this support rentals as well as new home construction?
No, this is just new home construction.
Okay, so does that also include condominiums?
If they're new condominiums, like if the building is being constructed, that's where it takes effect.
Gotcha, okay.
Would it be like new apartment buildings also, or only a new apartment building construction would also fall under it?
Yes,
Okay,
any new building, essentially.
or office building, anything like that.
Right, and the city council will probably come up with, sort of carve outs like maybe restaurants would be given 3 extra years to not do it or something. Who knows?
Wow.
But that's beyond sort of what we need to worry about. Because that's going to be in the plan. And they're
Okay,
figuring that out.
hopefully I just spelled everybody's name correctly. So did Marius have more?
Morris, do you have any follow-up?
No.
Okay, thank you. And Laura, you had a bevy of questions. Go for it.
Yeah, so I'm putting my video back on because it's unfair to be yakking without video. So my concern from today's presentation that Dan and I went to is that there, even though this council file is a little narrow, it's for the new construction, but it was being presented today, and a lot of the people on the call were from Building and Safety and the Planning Department. Dan, I don't know if you realize that, but I recognize lots and lots of names.
Mhm.
What was being proposed is that also retrofit existing,
Right.
required retrofit of existing single-family homes and apartments, and concerns about tenants' equity, meaning would the landlords pass that along, the costs? And my concern, I actually posted it, is like, for any of us who are living in older homes, 1 and 2 story homes, and particularly with 2 stories homes, because it doubles the cost for us to yank out if we still have working
Yeah.
central heating.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and put in the whole new electrical systems.
Yep.
They're very expensive, but worse, what I didn't say there, what worse is they've got no lifetime. I mean, literally, David is going to have to replace a system in an apartment that he put in 4 years ago today.
Well, why? I'm not following.
It's broken.
Uh-huh.
We're too close to the grime from the freeway is one thing we're being told. The coils just die. It ruins everything else. The manufacturers are not honoring their warranties, but even if they were, you have labor costs.
Well,
and these are not things that last another century is the point.
I feel obliged to mention that is a separate discussion. There's a separate council file for existing buildings.
I recognize it's not this council file, and you're absolutely right, but it just raised for me some alarm bells, because again, on the tenant side, and even on the tenant side for this one, frankly, unless the landlord, I'm in favor of this, but I wonder if we want to be adding a sort of caveat or condition. If the landlords are building all electric buildings and not supplying the washing machines, the dryers, and the stoves, right? So the tenants who are moving in, they're going to have to they're not going to be able to bring their gas appliances with them to the new apartment. Maybe these are luxury anyway, and I shouldn't care. But some of these questions are not answered because they're not going to require the landlords to supply all those appliances, just as they don't today. But if you're a tenant moving from one apartment to another and you already own appliances, you're not going to be able to bring them along. They won't work. So, I'm not opposed to this, obviously. But there's interesting questions.
Well, Laura, how often does somebody bring along a water heater?
No, not a water heater, a washing machine, a dryer, and a stove.
Yeah.
Well, landlords have to supply the water heater, and they have to supply installed heat in any habitable space. That's a law. But they do not have to supply refrigerator, which is not pertinent, stove, washing machine, or dryer. They only need to supply hookups.
I agree with Laura, just in general, support the motion, but do have concerns about how renters would ultimately be affected by that kind of change, and just would want to make sure that whatever we said would, encapsulate that as well.
I did actually attempt to do that in the text of the motion. It said, in a way that is fair to both renters and owners.
Correct. Yeah, no, I think I support your motion. I just wanted to bring up some of the concerns that I felt. And then also, just again, because we're engaged in this. In other words, my work, I'm engaged in all of these questions. We're rehabbing we're having a historic build, house. And we're starting from scratch by and large on the electric, the gas and all that stuff. So we're discussing for the stove, we're gonna have to have electric and gas right now. I mean, at this point to hook, give both, but I'm suddenly realizing, is it 110 or 220 electric? I don't know the answer. We might have to
Yeah.
do two.
Stoves are usually 220.
That's what I think too. But will they be in 10 years when it's actually required? Do they know yet? Whoever they might be. I mean,
Yes, I think it's safe to say that it'll still be 220 for stoves. Water heaters, they're now going to have 110-volt water heaters, so for retrofits. But again, this is all you're describing the retrofit problem, which is not the subject of this motion.
yes and no. I mean, yes, it's not the subject of this motion. Unless unless at council they change it to include retrofits.
They won't. No.
Okay.
That's a separate council file. So let's please focus on this motion.
Okay.
Yeah, we've gotten into the old construction, whereas, yeah, I understood this motion to be about new construction entirely.
Mhm.
Interestingly, that it's about new construction also of single family houses. And in my mind's eye, I was thinking mostly about apartments.
Well,
Wait.
most of the construction in LA is going to be apartments.
Yeah, I see
So-
that.
Right.
Right. And that's, and I also believe that this should be a full-throated support of the CIS. This shouldn't, I would suggest that the caveats come further downstream, because I would like decision makers to know that on the ground level, on the grassroots level, there is high levels of support for this, so that it not get knocked down early.
I think in a lot of new buildings, they put in appliances, like the large development I used to work next to. They got all electric kitchens, and this was 4 years ago. So this is not necessarily a burden for a lot of developers, I think. Partly because when you don't put in gas, that saves a lot of money. You don't have to pay for the new gas connection, which is a lot of work.
Is there also a requirement for solar panels on new buildings too?
The state and the city require solar on new buildings now.
So those electric appliances will probably come with some savings
Well,
if that landlord decides to. I don't know how that works, but
Well, that's a separate, really interesting question.
yeah.
Right, because again, as a person who works with a landlord, we've had tenants ask us, can we put in the solar? Obviously we're not required.
Yeah.
And then our answer is, internally, it's like, well, it doesn't help us at all because we're not paying the electric.
Mm.
But if if the landlord's required to put it in, then that's probably no longer pertinent.
Yeah, it's only required in new buildings and new roofs, I think.
And Dan, are you convinced that by new buildings, they really mean ground up construction, as opposed to when somebody goes in on a major rehab and it's a new certificate of occupancy? Because again, on the project we're working on right now, it was pretty much treated as a new building, even though it was it was an 1890 barn that somehow got converted to single family and then it's wreck. So this might be just an exceptional exception, but building and safety required it to follow all the new guidelines.
Did you take it down to the studs?
Oh, well, there were no studs. It was a barn. And if you're going to ask me, did we take it down to the floor? There was no floor because it had rotted away, because it was sitting on mud. This is probably an exceptional exception. And
Was this under the historic building code?
Luckily, that's the only saving grace, but it didn't help much.
Well, I think that would probably override this if it's historic. It's my guess.
Got it. Okay. Well, anyway, I support this motion. It is pretty narrow and it's also fair to both, as you wrote, both renters and owners.
I wrote carefully. I wrote in a way that could appeal to a broad audience.
All right, shall we have a vote? Are we ready for a vote? Everyone, and any final questions or comments? And all in favor, please raise your hand virtually or otherwise. Marius, do you have a vote? Thank you, Davina. Yay. And oh, did we lose Marius? Oh yeah, there you are.
Yeah, Marius is raising his virtual
I
hand.
see.
Okay, is that
Yay.
unanimous?
Okay, I think we're in unanimous support of that. Great.
Okay.
Awesome.
Laura, thank you for raising the appliance question. I will bring that up when I discuss this in the future.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, again, it's just, my concern is that sometimes when policy is really exciting to city people, they don't really think through the practical realities. And I'm not even just talking about this kind of thing, but so many policies, especially that the planning department has adopted over the last 5 years, when you get in the weeds, they're not feasibly enforced, or there's something wrong with them. It's the unintended consequences that policy people don't always consider because they're excited about policy. And I don't mean that as it's a criticism, but not a criticism. I mean, it's just a thing that happens.
Yeah, I think there's a big effort at the state level to get zero emission appliances into the building trades and into the supply chain. So they are sort of aware of part of this issue.
Right. It's just, I mean, to me, as a person, who has an old house with a century-old gravity flow heater that works. I mean, I had to, at one point, repair the burners, and a Chambers oven from the 1940s that works really well, and a refrigerator not so much, but a 1930s or 40s refrigerator that's probably not eco at all, let me just say it that way. But it's cute, real cute. But anyway, the point is, all these things have worked for many, many, many decades. And then in my work, when we're buying stoves and refrigerators and all of these things, and their useful life is so short, it's really disappointing.
Yeah.
And it's expensive, but it's also just simply disappointing that these appliances do not last much more than 4 or 5 years, and we're replacing them all the time.
Yeah, but that goes for the non-electric ones too, I think.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, either way.
So I've heard actually of some effort to require longer warranties on appliances. I'm not sure where I heard that, but that sounds like it's trying to aim at that problem.
That's
right. Well, that would be almost a really good thing for the state. I don't think the city could do that. If everyone, if they're going to be moving people to these new appliances, they really need to work with the manufacturers to make sure they don't have planned obsolescence.
That's good. And Biden had an executive order sometime recently that right to repair. So I believe that there is an effort on the part of even the federal administration to try to improve appliances. But let's move on, if you don't mind, to composting.
Do you need me to repost the agenda, Elizabeth?
No, I think, and everybody notice on their own, number 5, composting, state law and policies recently announced will require reduction in food waste going to landfills. The environmental committee will discuss the UNNC potentially presenting a future workshop on getting started with composting that would cover what to buy, how to start, etc. And this is if everybody knows me, I've got composting and I've got worm composting, and this is very close to my heart. I also feel pretty strongly about local control of this issue, because people can forget when they put it when they give this issue to the city and just say, oh, if I put it in the green bin, or if I do this, then somebody else will take care of it. I don't know exactly how, but we all know that we don't really trust the recycling system now, because we put it in our blue bin, And we have no idea how much of that goes to the landfill. And by the way, a lot of it does. We all know that. So the idea of educating everybody on composting is a wonderful idea. And I understand also that not every household can do it, but every neighborhood could probably have a system by which people in apartments can bring their compost to a central area and then meet others and centralize as a neighborhood and you know, cohere as a neighborhood. But this is not my presentation. Whose presentation is this?
Well, this was Charlie's question because she's so interested in it. So maybe she should tell us what she's interested in and what she thinks would be a good way to teach this.
Charlie, the floor is yours.
Sorry, I feel like I have a little bit of a cold going on, so I apologize for the sniffles. But we would really like to start a compost, but I feel like and I could Google it and there'd be a million things and it would tell me what to do, but I feel like I would rather, if I was a community member and I saw something that said like, come learn how to compost and we'll tell you what to buy, if I could just leave with a list and talk to somebody who did it and, it sounds like you know a ton about it. But I know your plate is very full right now, or somebody else who also, is doing it and has tried different ways. Cause I know there is a big difference but I don't know what it is, but about the worm compost versus the non-worm compost. And I just would love to see somebody present on it and teach me how to do it. And then, then I'm going to go off and buy the stuff and start doing it. Cause this came up in the other one a few weeks ago where I've been putting all our food scraps in the green bin and have not supposed to do that apparently. So I've been doing it wrong. And so we kind of thought that was like, okay, not composting, but next best thing. And it is not the next best thing. So we haven't done that anymore. I thought Dan would be proud of us to know that. But I really would love to learn how to do it.
Wonderful.
I
And
just
Davina
pasted-
and then Dan. What? Yeah. Davina first, please, and then Dan.
I just was gonna say that I completely agree. And if there was something in the community that had composting, I would totally go to it. And I also, when I first moved here, one of the first things I noticed was how like improperly the blue bins were used. And I just went like crazy over it. And I live in it's an 8 apartment unit complex. So I was like, I mean, if I could teach my 8 other neighbors or my 7 other neighbors how to do this, that could make just a difference even in our street. I think it's a great idea. I think it'd be great to have in apartment complexes and neighborhoods of that, these style. So yeah, full support on all of these things and would love to learn about it.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. Thanks. Dan.
So I just posted a link in the chat to the city's composting seminars. They've got them going every couple of weeks for the next couple of months. At 4 locations throughout the city. So if you're interested in finding out about composting from LA San, click on it.
Okay.
So,
And Laura, go ahead.
yeah, so my question is, and Elizabeth, you do this, do we think as a UNNC, do we think that we're going to be allowed to do in-person anything when we want? So that's, I know you guys don't know the answer. I'm following that a little more closely, but would it be better, certainly more fun, if we could find someone to teach a composting 101 in someone's backyard? Would that, and I don't know, I mean, Elizabeth, you have composting, but can it be taught in a person's backyard or does it need to be, if in a more professional location?
I think it absolutely can be in somebody's backyard. It's great in somebody's backyard, but it's also great in somebody's apartment, wherever it's sort of the wherever 2 people are together. You can.
Yeah, well, that's not what I mean. I mean, in other words, Dan is right. Sanitation department is offering sessions on how to compost. And my question is, should UNNC on its own get someone like, well, I don't know, does Florence teach it? The little Japanese lady. Her daughter lives on Harvard.
I don't know her.
Oh, anyway, the master gardener. Florence Nishida, I think. You've met her, Elizabeth, I think. Well, anyway, do we get do master gardeners also teach composting.
There's a number of people that I'm thinking of. One, Seeds of Change. They have an active compost in their little
Right.
community garden. I think the garden school or whatever, 24th Street. I think
Oh, yeah.
that has that has some compost experts there. I would piggyback on some other event that was happening. Any kind of UNNC event, say, okay, can we have a composting corner? And like, I'd like to help Davina's 8-person, apartment and have it there.
Yes, but what does her landlord think? Or unless Davina is the landlord.
I wish I were my own landlord. That's a goal, but no, I'm not. But I agree, like having it in some way that could then be like a community place, like
Right.
People come from the community. Okay, you learned at this place. Now you can also use this
Right.
compost we have then set up for our UNNC area.
Well, you guys just said the magic word, though. The Garden School Foundation has a cafeteria to compost program at 24th Street School. And they like us. I bet you they would partner with us on a composting 101 thing at their garden. So I can, if that's the direction, I can reach out because they like us because we gave them money, but we also have given them support. I mean, the community has given them support for many years. What do you think? Charlie, you think that would work for you?
Yeah, no, I would go. I mean, anything would work. I do think, yeah, it's funny. Initially, I was thinking via Zoom, and I feel like it's easier, obviously, for people to come together via Zoom, but I think also so much better. I mean, I think we're also so like ingrained that Zoom is the way things are, but it's like that would be so much better to do in person and actually see.
Kind of get dirty.
Yeah,
Good to get
like
dirty.
you have to turn it, and I mean, I don't know what you need to do, but I know you need to do a lot of stuff.
Okay, so Charlie, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to Rachel at the Garden School Foundation. I'm going to copy you and Elizabeth on that email and see if there is something we can together plan.
Okay.
And the answer may be no. I don't know, but that'd be good. And then I see some. What is this thing that Dan just posted?
It's just more about the
right.
LA Sand thing.
Right. Okay, cool.
Nice.
So we don't need to vote on that.
Okay, what's the next step on that then?
Well,
Well,
I'm going to reach out. I will, just because I have her email, I will reach out to Rachel, who's the interim executive director of the Garden School Foundation, and copy you, Elizabeth, and Charlie on it, and say we are interested in doing this. Would this be something that we could partner with them to do at their site?
Okay.
In person.
Okay, so that would be choosing a date sometime in the spring, maybe April.
Well, maybe sometime in the summer after we know for sure we're out of COVID restrictions on neighborhood councils.
Okay, and it'll be a 2-hour, say, workshop. Bring
Well,
your
whatever they tell me. It would have to be what they tell me. And also, I don't know if they can do it in the summer. I'm just saying, right now, we're still under restrictions as a neighborhood council.
Does that satisfy everybody's needs? Are they feeling like they would like us to start with something earlier and would like some connection to the process or to a community?
Well, let's just ask Charlie whose idea this is.
Oh, I mean, I can wait a couple months. That would be fine. I'm sure it will take me a couple months to get myself together anyway to do it. So, it's not a huge rush, but yeah, I would, yeah, I'm excited to participate in whatever way.
Yeah, I mean, I will ask them because they may not be open in the summer. So that would mean we'd want to do it in the spring. So, I mean, when I say we'll all be on the email. Okay, meaning maximum 2 board members plus Elizabeth can be on that because of Brown Act.
Let's just say from the get-go too, it's not any complicated thing. And it turns out that my grandmother 50 years ago did a legitimate composting system, which is she dug a hole in various different places in her yard and just buried her kitchen scraps in various different holes in her backyard. And that's a legitimate system. So If
I
you've
could
got
just
some
do what I
land,
was doing with the green bin and just put it in the hole in the backyard.
you can put it in a hole in the backyard. It's totally true,
Well,
walk away.
I have to mention that unless the food gets oxygen while it's composting, it gives off methane.
Right.
And so you want to make sure it gets aerated. You want to turn it every now and then. So that's hard to do if you just bury it.
But it's still a system. It's still, yeah. So yeah, it's gonna, yeah. And the city should be doing a good job of that. And Davina, I guess I'd say too, that you can do a worm bin under your sink.
Oh,
It's the weirdest thing. And it won't take a lot of kitchen scraps at the beginning, but it does not smell. It does not smell at all. If you do it right, if you consider your worms a little bit of a pet.
okay.
But we need
I'll have
to.
I'll have to do some learning, but yeah.
Okay. Okay, but good. Thanks for being enthusiastic about it. Absolutely. Okay. I know we only have 15 more minutes. Shall we go to water cycling and reuse? Who owns that one?
That was also Charlie-ish.
It was something else that we've been trying to figure out how to do, and thinking about a gray water system, but that seems like very expensive to do the whole thing. And anyway, I was trying to think of if there's other creative ways to reuse some of the water. We catch some of the water. But in one of our showers, we catch the water with a big bucket, as it's heating up. So at least that water doesn't just go down the drain, and then use that for outside watering. But it's a schlep, and it's like holding a huge bucket going down the stairs. I mean, it's like a silly system. But I also think I read somewhere that some of it's illegal, to do. Anyway, I just wanted to find out more about that. Because I was thinking my daughter's bath water, she doesn't use, she uses all natural soap, and it's not very soapy, and it just seems like that would be the perfect thing to use for the plants, the non-eating plants maybe. But I didn't know if that was, I don't know, just would love some insight on it. And
So Elizabeth, you said something to me about you had installed a gray water system and then you uninstalled it.
Yeah, so I had one of the old-fashioned washers, and it was right poised over the backyard. It was sort of above and outside the backyard. And I thought, what a perfect thing it was. And this was 5 years ago or so. And so, yeah, I had the gray water core. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's awesome. He's, just his heart and his actions are all absolutely the right. And he works real hard and he does a lot of stuff. So he came in and he put a simple, he and a crew, and everybody was learning. So it was sort of that workshop thing. So it didn't cost me very much, if any money. I think I just bought supplies, and everybody else learned also about how to put in a simple gravity fed gray water system that funneled from my garage, from the pump in my old washing machine, out into the yard right under my my orchard. I had about 5 fruit trees, and so it was feeding those fruit trees, and it's fine. It's just like composting in that once you start thinking that it's going to go into your backyard, you care about what you use. So, right, your daughter's eco-friendly products are perfect for gray water. It's the city requires some permitting. That's why it becomes illegal if you put in something and haven't fully vetted it. But I think I didn't permit mine. It was just one washing machine. It wasn't a whole house. And so he suggested, I think, that I wasn't going to get any trouble. Then I put it in a super water saving washing machine. And I just took it out. I just decided that it wasn't a good use of, I don't know. I just took it out, and I'm sorry. I'm kind of sorry that I did, but now I want to attach it to a shower. I want to attach it to the other shower. I'm willing to do it again and do it better next time. But that's.
I guess the upshot is it's kind of hard. And if you can reduce water use some other way, that may be an easier first step.
Yeah. Also, Charlie, I feel like when you wrote that in the email that you carry the bucket down the stairs and out to the garden, it would like, just use it to flush your toilet, for God's sakes.
That's true. That's a good point.
Because one bucket of water will flush your toilet.
It's true. No, I mean, my husband carries it down the stairs, so I can't take any credit for it. But it does end up being a lot of water. It's amazing when you see, even just the shower heating up, like how much water is just like going down the drain.
Right. Well,
And I was wondering if
also,
there was a way even just to, because the way the bathtub is where she takes her bath, there's a window right above it and it's downstairs. So I was thinking there was a way to like just get a hose and a pump and just pump it out there, but I don't know if that's.
well, you'd almost have to have a sump pump because you'd be going up and out the window. You have to
Yeah.
go up first and then down.
New construction.
Yeah, but a sump pump would work. It's just one weird place to put it.
Yeah,
The tub.
yeah. It's a great idea, but it's hard to do a lot of times. In new construction, you could put in a diversion valve when you're taking a bath. It's like, okay, this is clean water. I'm going to send it to the garden.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So years ago, there was and I don't know if it still exists. There's Eco Village on Bimini, Lois Arkin. But then there was a woman named Julia Russell, and she had a house somewhere, I want to say Los Feliz Flats, but the whole house was a demonstration of this, that, and the other eco thing. So she was one of the early experimenters with gray water, and I think it works, but I feel like planting a non-water thirsty garden probably works almost better. I don't know. Elizabeth's raising her own hand.
Yeah, I am. Because I know we only have 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And
Well, be confident I have very little to say about those trees.
Oh, okay. Thanks. But let me just, I'd like everybody to have a chance to vent a little bit or just enthuse a little bit about anything that they'd like in the last few minutes. And let me just enthuse right quick about how I think actually that some of the systems out there identify us activists. And right, we're activists. And they say, oh, how can we tire them out? How can we get them to and they tire us out with the minutia. We think that we're supposed to do all the, the gray water ourselves. So we think we're supposed to do all the recycling ourselves, and we do, and we're exhausted. So exhausted that we might miss some, city council meetings. My point is that I believe it's in the power of industry to turn this ship a little faster. California is doing it nicely, but other states aren't. And I'd like industry to step up a little bit more. So, and your kind, gentle nudge every time you buy something from Amazon and ask, what's the packaging like? Is the packaging recyclable? Is the packaging compostable? Nudges the industry just a little bit. And it's remarkable how as consumers we have power that as a citizen we don't. That's my soapbox. And I'll pass the soapbox. Who else has something burning to say?
Just to piggyback on that, like one of my good friends from college is a environmental journalist, and she has amazing podcasts. I mean, she does award-winning podcast. She's awesome. Amy Westervelt, if you are interested, she does like the Drilled, and anyway, she does a lot of really interesting podcasts on environmental stuff. But her the point she makes all the time is that like big industry basically like to kind of smoke and mirrors, like puts it back on the consumer, and the amount that we are actually contributing compared to big industry is so vast, but it takes then the onus off of them and puts it on me. Like, okay, like I'm going to drive an electric car and I'm going to water my plants with my daughter's bathwater, and and it just takes the focus off of the major things that they could do to really change things. So just
I hear that the notion of your carbon footprint was actually, it came from industry to like try to convince people that it was their personal choices that made the difference and not like government policy or corporate
Industrial
policies.
practices. Yeah.
So the CIS we did may be as effective as anything we can do individually.
Yeah, Laura.
Well, I mean, one thing is I use very little water, even though I have because I live in Angeles Vista, I have a very large lot. So it's 50 by 180, not 50 by 150 or 50 by 125. But I have never installed an irrigation system. I've always watered by hand. So, I know it's 1 minute equals 8 gallons, and a rose bush needs 8 gallons a week. So if I hold the hose on each rose bush for 1 minute per week, we're good. I mean, on an established rose. So I have consistently over the years, even in the summertime, only used 4, maybe 5 HCFs for the 2 months. I mean, I have very low water use. And that is because I do not have any irrigation system, period. I just water. And so I can't, it's hard to overwater because I'd have to be doing it full time. So you know what I mean? It's a big property. So
and the point is that, does industry care about how much water it uses, like to make a pair of jeans or to make a shirt, or to bring to fruition a side of beef?
Right. But I guess my point was, I'm not going to feel guilty about neither having gray water nor even water capture, rain barrels, because I don't use, the manner in which I successfully water a garden already uses less water.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have a child who's bathing every day. I mean, I'm not filling a bathtub. I mean, so that there are other things going on. And I work 10 hours a day elsewhere. So I can't actually say I use no water because I'm using water somewhere else. But okay.
Oh, and one more.
Want me to do the tree thing?
Yeah, let's do the tree thing.
Okay, can we put out the tree thing? Well, let me just say one thing that's very important to me, which is at the end of this month, I am going to Washington on a train from here in Wichita to the first, that I could tell, strictly conservative climate caucus. And they're inviting conservative environmental groups. And we're talking to conservative Republican, legislators about climate. So it's actually very much less attended than I was hoping. I don't think we have 100 people going, and this is not only from CCL, this is other groups. So if you know of any across the country, if you know of any conservative environmentalists, be they hunters, fishers, outdoors people who are right leaning, we really need a presence in Washington D.C. to say to shake the Republican Party to say, listen, to have a future, you really need to address climate and the environment. Desperate need for conservatives to step up and say their feelings about the environment. Now we can talk about trees.
Well, this is just a follow-up. A couple of things. We have our Washington Boulevard tree planting project. Last I heard, KYCC is feeling like they have to do one more visit for locations because on the ground things keep changing. And so just a couple of updates on that. The City Council District 10 has gotten the Department of Sanitation to agree to remove the tree cages that we need removing. No, don't clap yet. They said, sure, give us a list. So CD10 gave them the list, nothing. So they've given them the list 3 times. I'm just saying, they said yes, but it's not happening. So I just wanted to tell you, but we have somehow have an agreement. We had only provided the list of cages on the 6 sites that had been identified by KYCC and the permit person as viable for our planting. So there are, I told Danielle from CD10 that I would go out this weekend and give her the list of all cages that had stumps, dead trees, not just our 6, but there's probably another 10 cages, even though they're not our planting locations. So just to make them plantable at some time in the future. But update number 2 is that I think we're good not to plant the tree or trees by the under construction Debbie Allen Dance Academy. I mean, today I went and everything has been demolished on the 2 sidewalks. I'm guessing, meaning they're going to redo the sidewalks and the curbs and the parkways. I feel like that means, even though they've never responded to me, I'll try again, that they're being required to put in a couple of new trees as well. So I will check. So I think that those locations are probably off our list. Probably. I mean, I see no reason to give them trees if they're doing new construction. But on the other hand, I don't want to be mean. And then last but totally not least, we still need to start identifying and raising funds, identifying other sources of funds and putting our hands on it. So I spoke with Stephen Dupree, who's the urban forestry tree supervisor for our broad region. And he had presented at the citywide Alliance of Neighborhood Councils last Saturday on the broad topic of tree canopies and trees, and mentioned at that session that the Department of Sanitation has monies that they have to give away for watering of trees. I have not been able to, well, I don't know if this is true or false. I've not been able to actually find that program online. So I'm going to talk to the neighborhood council liaison at sanitation to see if this is true or false. It's a different department than what he's in. But we need to do at least something because Greg is bothering me. Not me personally. Greg is sending out emails saying, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up? And so I need to do a report at executive committee on Tuesday. So at some point really soon, if we're going to do a GoFundMe, we should. UNNC could potentially provide more funds next year, but not in this fiscal year because we can't. I mean, we're paying for this. We've already given the $7,000 for this. So I'm going to circle back to the Harvard Heights Association because they had said they would provide $3,000. Angeles Vista would not have any monies. Western Heights might, but there's only one tree, I think, that's going, one or two trees that bound Western Heights. And then Arlington Heights, I know they don't really have the kind of funds where we should be asking them to pay for trees. I mean, they don't have filming. So we need to get to another $14,000 or $15,000 over 3 years. You know, in other words, over 2 more years. So I think we just need to get privately serious. And it's not we UNNC so much as we who push this project through. You know, so GoFundMe or some other thing might be good. I did talk to LA Beautiful. They're re-upping their grant program in April. They have another round of grants, but not for watering and maintenance of trees. So that it's unfortunate. I mean, it's a good program, but it won't work for this.
The GoFundMe thing, it just sounds like, why aren't we doing that already? But look, can we talk?
Because you, Elizabeth, had said you would do it, and your life got busy. That's why.
Yeah.
But perhaps we still could. We can talk about it.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's agendize that, if that's okay.
All right. And I don't mean our lives have all gotten busy, you know. I mean, and I think not just busy, but I think a lot of us are fighting anxiety over, you know, COVID ending, gas prices high, war in Europe. You know, I think it's really hard to get focused on these things. Mm-hmm. Although maybe healthy to get focused on these things instead of the 3 things I just mentioned.
It's wonderful to gather with some like-minded people.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And progress has worked, has happened, and will continue. So right. With that.
So the main report I have is maybe there's some money in the city, but I can't find it yet. The tree cages will get handled, but they're not being handled fast. And the other thing that Stephen Dupree did say at this meeting was that we can we can make a report to 311 when there's a tree stump that needs removing, and they will go out and remove the stump. So that probably is another thing we should be doing whenever we see dead trees, because that may not relate to the Washington Boulevard project, but once the trees are gone, we can replace. You know, homeowners or anybody can replace them.
Wonderful. That's wonderful.
Okay. My report's done.
All right. Great. Thank you, Laura, and thank you, everyone. We're a little bit over time, but I really, really appreciate you giving an hour of your life, your time to this. Any last comments? Okay, everybody have a great evening. See you next month.
Okay, good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye. Laura, I have 3 cats in my life.